Like, this is unreal.
Fate. Guys, come on, you heard it here first, bro. Buy Edge of Fate, bro. Hashtag Magtics.
Alright, we have an interesting video topic today, that being, does Bungie pay its creators? A lot of people have recently been calling some of the bigger creators in the Destiny 2 community shills. Magtics and Scarrow come to mind as they are some of the more vocal creators on Twitter. Up until the release of Edge of Fate, I'd been pretty disconnected from Destiny. I stopped playing the game at the end of February when Monster Hunter Wilds released, and I didn't follow a ton of the Edge of Fate changes. I didn't watch any of the preview videos, but I did tune in for Bungie's last livestream before the launch, and I know a lot of the discourse around the expansion was that it was super content light. That discourse being on Twitter where, as I said, Magtics and Scarrow are quite active, and I did see them defending some of Bungie's decisions, but I know Scarrow in particular was very annoyed with the speculation. He was often being called a paid shill, and then on the other side of the coin, if he would give some negative feedback, he was told he was being too negative. I did watch one of his videos on Marathon as well, and he glazed that game pretty hard. So here's my perspective on the whole thing from an outside lens. But also as someone who makes content on Destiny, I do not think Bungie pays any of their creators, and creators like Magtics and Scarrow, I do feel they are genuine with their feedback. People absolutely hated Concord and it failed miserably, but I saw Sir Demetrius say on a couple of occasions that he really enjoyed Concord. I know he made a couple videos about it, and I think he tweeted that he actually really enjoyed it, and I fully believe him. I also don't think that Firewalk Studio paid him to say that. He's a big FPS PvP lover, so I believe him when he says he enjoyed the game. The same way I believe Scarrow when he says he enjoyed Marathon. I heard his team was one of the best at the preview events, so yeah, it was probably really fun winning matches with his team and playing with new builds and this and that. Getting to play a new game before it's out, it was all probably really exciting and cool. To go back to Concord, there was a lot wrong with the game, but it wasn't some unplayable piece of shit. It just didn't really attract any audience. It had no draw. And in this age of instant gratification, you do kind of need that. Another killer for that game was that it was a paid product in a genre littered with free options that are just as good or better. So it was kind of set up to fail, but I am sure it had some decent enough gameplay and some fun to be had. But no one was running around calling Sir D a Concord shill. Same goes for Marathon. While I personally think it looks bland and uninspired, I am also not the target audience. So while I do believe Scarrow is genuine in his praise for Marathon, I think he also goes a little hard on the defense for that game. Just because he likes it doesn't mean that others can't criticize it. Some people take it personally when you don't like a thing that they like, and vice versa, if you don't like something but others do. For example, I've been hard on Bungie of late for all their bugs, but some people have been in my comments saying that they enjoy the expansion and haven't had many bugs at all. Or they just take their time with the content so they don't mind it too much. I actually like those comments. If people are enjoying the product the way they want to, I think that's great. I'm genuinely happy for them, honestly. In my video breaking down all the bugs in Destiny back when Episode Heresy released, I said Destiny was becoming unplayable. That was from my perspective. It was unplayable for me, because I could no longer test new aspects or new artifact mods, because sadly everything was launching broken with unintended bugs. Nothing seemed to work properly, and that killed the enjoyment that I get from the game. But not everyone cares about that stuff, and that's totally fine. So that was a long preamble to say this. No, Bungie does not outright pay creators. At least I don't think so. I do know they had some sponsored streams back when the Final Shape released, and I think they did for Lightfall as well, but I don't think they restrict what creators can or cannot say about the game. Astacross has made plenty of videos criticizing Bungie, and he is still invited to all these events. They claim negative feedback was welcomed more than positive feedback at the Marathon preview events, but it's just a shame that they seemingly didn't listen to the players telling them that their product is ass. However, I do believe that the creators, whether it's true or not, do hold back some of their negative feelings about the game. I went balls out with my criticism of Bungie after I did my piece on how they destroyed Destiny with their developmental philosophy, and that video pretty much killed Destiny for me because it made me realize that they are making the game more out of a desire for revenue than they are out of a desire for their players to have fun. And you can totally disagree with me on that, but you will never change my mind. You can only hear "we're listening" so many times before it starts ringing hollow. Eventually, your actions have to prove that you care, not your words. That is just the way I see it, and I've seen enough in their actions that my perspective is my reality. You may turn a blind eye on those things, or see other positive things that they do and choose to focus on that instead, and that's fine. But I see them how I see them, and that's that. So back to the actual payment thing, I do believe that those big creators want to stay in Bungie's good graces. They can give nitpicks here and there, and the two guys I called out certainly do. They provide critical feedback just as much as anyone. But if they do, they keep it quite tame, which is a totally fine thing to do, by the way. I feel like I mostly just tell it like it is, but other creators express their negative feelings but wrapped up in positivity. Here's an example. So Mactix, just on the day I'm recording this, says, as much as I absolutely love the raid, it did show how much of a QA overhaul the overall game needs. Flags not working, sprint bug, encounter mechanics not working, desync, certain perks not working. Hell, even my 2-round burst hand cannon was shooting 1-round bursts at one point. But then he follows that up with, I'm genuinely not trying to discredit anyone's work or come after anyone's job. That is not at all what this is meant to be. But a stronger emphasis needs to be put on this moving forward. It's making the game feel like a lower quality product, and that's detrimental to its future. And you know what? I totally agree with him, and I've echoed all those same points. He just wraps a nicer bow on it, where I don't pull any punches. And I'm kind of fed up with Bungie, so sometimes maybe I'm a little bit hyperbolic. So be it. I deliver my criticisms the way I want to, and Mactix does it the way he wants to. We're both saying the same thing though, that QA needs to take greater precedent in Destiny, and that the game is a buggy mess right now. But to the other point of the tweet, he says, as much as I absolutely love the raid. Again, I fully believe that he does love the raid. That's his genuine impression. I think if I had bought Edge of Fate, I would love this raid too. I love boss bakes, and I think the raid looks really fun. I truly do. As much shit as I give Bungie, they make good raids and dungeons. I've always said that. It's funny because just this week I made a video that said Bungie cooked on the thumbnail, and the title was the greatest raid race in Destiny history. And then the next day I had a video that said Bungie messed up, and the title was the most divisive and buggy raid in Destiny history. And people were saying how I was flip-flopping and, oh, so do you love Bungie or hate Bungie? Do you love the game or hate the game? So I totally understand Scarrow's point of view. I don't know why people think it has to be black and white, one way or the other. Life is full of nuance, but nuance completely goes out the fucking window on the internet. So while I made my video praising the raid race because I had a genuinely very good experience for 16 hours watching teams compete it out for worlds first, that doesn't overshadow the fact that this was the buggiest raid in Destiny history. It's just one video was focused on the raid race, and the other was focused on the actual quality of the raid. And even at that, the raid does a lot of good things. I think it looks really good. But my video that I made criticizing the raid was a comprehensive look at all the bugs that occurred during the contest mode race. It's almost like well-adjusted people can enjoy some parts of the game and dislike other parts of it. It's not all or nothing. I'll give praise where it's warranted, and I'll give criticism where it's warranted. And here's another thing. People play Destiny in different ways. They may not hate a lot of the things that drive me crazy, and they will love other aspects of the game that I don't even care about. Scarrow is a big secrets guy, so he's probably loving life right now, finding secrets in the new raid, having a genuinely good time doing so. He lives for that stuff, and I think it's great. Mactix loves build crafting, and he's probably cooking up a ton of new builds to use with the new armor system. They play and enjoy different aspects of the game than I do, and that's fine. I was a big solo dungeon and solo GM guy, so I used to get incredibly frustrated when I would die to an ad teleporting in a GM and wiping my run, or the bell not TPing me in duality, or some other bug in another dungeon that would ruin a solo flawless run. It would ruin my experience, and over time, that killed my will to play the game, where people who don't do solo challenge stuff would never even think twice about that. If an ad bugs out in a GM and kills you in a fire team of 3, it's really not a big deal. You get revived and you continue on. If it happens while solo, it could kill a 40-minute run and you have to start over. You see what I'm saying? So what bothers me may mean nothing to them. A PvP player is going to have major gripes with cheaters, where PvE players don't care about that at all. But something to consider is, even though Bungie doesn't pay these guys, there's still a monetary incentive to be on the good side of Bungie. I don't know where Scarrow lives, but I'm assuming he got flown out to Seattle to playtest Marathon for like 80 hours total. So this was probably at least 2 trips. I don't know, but I'm just saying. But I'm sure they paid for flights and hotels and maybe even a food allowance. So even if they aren't being paid, there is a financial incentive. I've traveled for my old company to Chicago, and this is how it was. Flight and hotel paid for, and a daily allowance for food. Plus free time off for me for my job because I was traveling for work. Next, there is the Bungie Creator Program. In the background, you can see my Twitter feed of the hashtag Bungie Creator. I think DeFizzle, just while I was scrolling, got like 23,000 silver alone, and many other creators also got gifts of silver. I know I saw a funny tweet a while ago from True Vanguard about him getting a shit ton because he kept not receiving it, but it was actually going to his PC account instead of his PlayStation account, or something like that. Point is, even though it's not money, it still has monetary value. DeFizzle's 3 silver gifts equate to over 270 Canadian dollars worth of silver alone. Creators also get emblem giveaways through this program, which drives engagement. You get tons of likes and retweets and followers, it drives traffic to your Twitch channel. Then you can make it a subscriber only giveaway, which gives you subscribers, which equates to real world money. But here's the big one, the early access for things like Final Shape and Edge of Fate. I have no problem with the first couple, but this one actually does bother me. In early June, a bunch of creators released all the new exotics coming in Edge of Fate, and I think it was similar for Final Shape. And these are all some of the biggest creators like Fallout Plays and Aztecross. No hate to those guys, but they already get hella views, especially Aztecross. As a small creator who took years to grow an audience, I would book time off work just so that I could work on YouTube, and a big thing I would do is grind out the new exotic armor pieces and do videos on them. Star Eater Scales and Lucky Pants were massive for my channel back in the day, and Ballador's Wrathweavers went crazy for me, especially given how small my channel was at that time. It's so hard to break through the YouTube algorithm as a small creator, but being the first to get out some info on a new exotic was a good way to get some views and traction. And now Bungie was just giving that to huge creators like Datto and Aztecross who already have a massive following. Again, no hate to those guys whatsoever, but it did create a rich get richer scenario. Aztecross got 256,000 views on his video going over Edge of Fate exotics, plus he had some other videos answering questions about his early access. But the Edge of Fate exotic video is around 13 minutes, so he probably made somewhere around $1,000 on that video. Granted, he and his team probably would have gotten videos out at launch on them anyways, cause he has a team of testers and editors, but still, this is guaranteed views for him because he has exclusive access to the content. And then it allows his team to work on other content come release. Scarrow got roughly 250,000 views on his videos covering Marathon, so again, probably around $1,000. And I'm not saying he didn't work hard, he still flew out there, tested the game for 80 hours, he still had to work for it, it's not like these are free views, same with Aztecross, you still have to make the video, I'm just saying. And then also, with views comes subscriber growth and stuff from that too. But like I said, it's guaranteed views because of the exclusivity, but then like I said, it also makes it harder for talented small creators to break through. I'm not saying these guys don't deserve this. They all started their channels out of a love for Destiny and they made no money in the early days, just like all us YouTubers. You do it out of passion for something you love. I'm also not bitter or jealous. It would be cool to go for sure, but I'm no big Bungie stan. I never played during the Halo days outside of some LAN PvP games with my friends who had Xboxes. I was a PlayStation kid. I was super casual with D1, so yeah, I would go to Bungie for the easy access to free content, but I'm not someone who holds their studio in super high regard, especially these days. I'm very anti-capitalist, and as far as I'm concerned, they're just some company. But some people do get blinded by that. And then you meet the developers and you realize they're great people, so then you want to hold back criticism of them. Hell, Bungie offered me one of those free marathon packages back in February, but I declined, because I don't want shit from them. I sort of regret it now though, just because if marathon fails, that could be a fun collector's item. I kid, but seriously though, Marathon looks like shit. But what I'm saying is this, by these guys going in person, it humanizes the studio. You see it with Paul Tassi a lot. He's critical of Bungie when he needs to be, but he's also very sympathetic towards the developers because he knows them as people. And that's natural. I hated management at my last job because just like Bungie, they ruined the place I worked at. But I still love my old coworkers and I don't want to see them out of a job no matter how much I hate the old company. Even if it would be nice to see the company fail because they deserve it due to mismanagement, but that means people lose their jobs and that sucks. The workers are usually the last people responsible for a company being run like shit. But to me, you have to be able to separate art from artist. I grew up reading Harry Potter books and watching the movies in theaters. I'm not some crazy Harry Potter fan, I don't have a Hogwarts house or some shit, but I do think the universe is cool. But at the same time, I can acknowledge that J.K. Rowling is a transphobic piece of shit. Same with Bungie. I like Destiny the game, but I think the creator of that game sucks ass. The decision makers make every anti-player change imaginable. Just look at the power grind in Edge of Fate. It rewards you for grinding hours rather than grinding hard content. Contest mode dropping tier 1 armor is a travesty. I have said for a while that they developed their game around player retention and not player fun, and this expansion is proof positive of that, and it's only getting worse. But with separating art from artist, it works the other way too. You can love the developers you met at the studio and appreciate that they treated you well and flew you out there and were hospitable and gave you perks for being a creator, while also acknowledging that things are not good in their game. But again, that's just my reality and my take on it. I see what I want to see. I used to work shift work, so I've always been very anti-time gating, because sometimes I would have lots of time to grind, and other times I would have no time to grind. But for other people, this is way less of a big deal, so they don't see it as a pain point. I always hate when people put words in my mouth like, you streamers just burn through everything and complain there's nothing to do. I have never once complained about a lack of content in Destiny. I loved the downtime because it allowed me to catch up on a backlog of video ideas that I had. I don't need new content to make good content. I could have 48 hours in a day and it still wouldn't be enough time. I'm always busy. I don't need time gating. I need the freedom to play what I want when I want. Which is another reason I left the game behind. It just doesn't suit how I like to play games. I want to grind my ass off, finish a game, and go play the next one. I put 100 hours into Death Stranding 2 in 2 weeks while also making videos and living my life and doing house projects. But the reality is, we don't know these creators. You don't know me, I don't know Mactix and Scarrow. You may think they're shilling for Bungie or gaslighting the community, but they probably really do love some of these changes. It just gives them more content to make on the game. It's actually a positive for them. They don't see it as anti-player. They see it as more videos that they can make. And even if there are some changes that they don't like, they don't have to talk about it. For years, I probably had minor gripes with the game, but I just didn't say anything and focused on the positive, especially in my videos. It wasn't until I was extremely annoyed with Bungie in the game that I started pointing out all the shitty stuff that Bungie does. But truth be told, you don't have to give your opinion on every single thing, and these creators probably just choose to focus on the good, which is totally fine. Good vibes are great. I loved my time with the game and my community when I was loving the game. And even though my content is skewed negatively, I still like making the content that I'm making. Destiny is a wonderful game for content creators specifically. They trickle feed content to keep up their weekly active user metrics, so from a creator perspective, you can have new videos every week covering the one new gun from the one new Nightfall. It's a double-edged sword. I would love to make more evergreen content and stuff that I want to make, but for other people like Rick Kakas who covers Xur's rewards every week, this is bread and butter content that's quick and an easy paycheck. You have to remember that everyone lives a different reality than your own. Certain things that bother one person, someone else has never even thought of. So I think that is where the disconnect is. And I want to be clear again, I have no ill will towards any of these guys that I talked about in this video. If they are genuinely enjoying the game, then I'm happy for them. I truly believe they are just giving their thoughts on the state of the game. Whether you think they are right or wrong is up to you, but people scream shill because the person yelling that doesn't agree with what the creator is saying. I just got told yesterday I was glazing Bungie, and I've been harder on them than anyone the past 6 months. People just think what they want to think and construct their own narratives. They don't see the whole picture. Oftentimes it's just thumbnails and titles and they write the person off. We don't know these creators, we don't know their motivations or the type of people they are. I do the exact same thing, I give my honest thoughts. Some people are in my comments saying, thank you for saying this, subscribed, and others are like, you're such a hater, unsubbed. You just can't please everyone. This video really went off the rails, but in conclusion, no, I do not believe Bungie pays their creators, but there are certainly incentives to being a #Bungie creator. It is a mutually beneficial relationship. Creators get exposure and free copies of the game and emblems to give away and free silver, and maybe even a free trip to test the game if they're lucky. And Bungie gets the creators covering the game that they love and built a community and audience around in hopes that it will attract more people to the game. And sometimes it does. I saw many people in my comments in the past saying, I booted up the game just because of that video that you made. And that's pretty cool. Just like now, I have people saying, I saved them $60 from buying Edge of Fate because I just wanted to wait and see. Or pointed out some bad thing about Bungie. Also, to go back to the point about creators just giving their honest takes, on my second channel I made a Death Stranding 2 review and someone said that I was virtue signaling. And all I really said was fuck war and that it's stupid that countries spend billions of taxpayer dollars to destroy cities and shit. I wasn't virtue signaling, that's genuinely stupid and it's how I feel. Some people will agree and others will hate you for disagreeing with them, and that's just how it goes. And one more thing, if you do watch that video or check out my other channel, please only subscribe if you will actually watch the content. I do not care about subscriber counts, so please don't think that you're doing me a favor if you sub to my second channel. I try to not promote it too much because I don't want to fuck with the algorithm. I'm trying to get organic growth over there, but if you are interested in my game reviews and my takes on the gaming industry, then by all means subscribe. But if you subscribe and don't watch, it will actually kill my channel, and I don't want that. I started a second channel so that the algorithm doesn't fuck me over, because pivoting this one would guarantee fuck it over. That's why I treat this one as a Destiny channel and for gaming clips and streaming. And speaking of streaming, I also stream on Twitch now, so you can follow me at itstizzle7 if you want. And while you're at it, join my Discord, there's a link to it in the description of this video. And one more thing, Bungie is far from the only company that does this. Basically every AAA studio pays creators. They even have sponsored streams, like they did with Mind's Eye, which was a dumpster fire of a game. The creators who did those streams, that was straight up for a paycheck. And again, no hate to those guys, but at least with the Bungie creator program, these people were all fans of the game first. They started the channels out of love for Destiny. So like I said, it's mutually beneficial. Anyways, enough yapping. Take care.